Could you explain your role in the Kansas City, Missouri School District during the period of school desegregation?
Well, I became a teacher. I had been a student in the district, you know, starting from kindergarten on up, actually first grade on up. So I graduated from Westport High School, then I went on to UMKC and got my BA and MA here. Then I started teaching in 1970. My first assignment was Martin Luther King, where I met wonderful, wonderful professionals there. And then, I retired from the district in 2002. So I was here most of the deseg time. I did take a couple of years off and worked for UMKC in the dental school, recruiting minorities and women into dentistry. But I had been a teacher most years, most of that period, in the Kansas City, Missouri School District.
And what efforts were put into place in Kansas City to integrate schools?
Well, I'm kind of a unique person in that I went to an integrated school. You know, I mean, it was tri-ethnic when I was going to grade school. So I guess I didn't think of it as being that segregated because I went to an integrated school. But as I taught, I also taught in what was somewhat integrated schools. But the magnet program did try to extend out to the southern part of town that was not as integrated. And I see where they really did mix it up a little bit. You know, there were favorite magnet schools like Paseo and Lincoln College Prep. But the foreign language magnets were very popular for the younger ones. Very popular, so you could see a lot of population came to the foreign language magnets, so from the south part of town. So I see that helped somewhat at that early on.
And how did the community respond to these efforts to integrate schools?
It depends on what part of town you talked about. I think north part of Kansas City was a little more reluctant, where you had a lot of the uneducated parents who wanted to keep their kids in the community. But then there were some savvy ones who became acquainted with the different magnet programs that they thought their children would be more interested or have a bigger interest. They had already seen what interests their children had, and so they wanted to plug them into the different magnet themes. So that's what I sensed. There was still that reluctance, though, to take them out of the neighborhood, especially the little ones.
What were some of the attitudes of educators and school staff at that time regarding school integration?
I think the staff was pretty excited because they, had a chance to do a lot of different opportunities, like visiting the different magnet schools they were interested in, as professionals. So they got to see a lot of these magnet schools all over the United States. They got to design the curriculum, There were a lot of opportunities to do different things that teachers don't normally get a chance to. I mean, some of the administrators were designing schools, designing, what the school would look like with the changes. That was novel for a lot of administrators too, I think. But I would say that it brought a lot of learning opportunities to the staff, who seemed to be excited about it and involve the community, parents that they knew would be, a valuable asset to the curriculum, to the change. So I think for teachers it was magnificent. It gave us a lot of training, a lot of opportunity to enhance our background. And I think it translated then to the students,
Can you think of some of maybe the training opportunities that you were exposed to during that period of time?
I worked at Westport Middle in a program called Westport High School, School Within a School, which was a new idea of getting the 100 lowest achievers in a special program where they would be more nurtured. They would be, they were given additional class, and like they continued getting a class in reading, which is what I taught, to enhance, to get them up to just par, to their grade level. And that was one of the programs I think that was wonderful. Westport had one of the best programs. We had exceptional teachers there who really made a difference in those children's lives. I really believe. At first they were, they understood what was going on. They understood that they had gotten the maybe weaker students, for lack of a better word, academically, but they understood the concept. We tried to help them understand the concept, and I think it built their, morale, their self-esteem with all that we did with them. I think it made a difference to those 100 children. I know it did. The mentor-teacher program at Westport High School, I think, was a good one too, because there were a lot of teachers who just didn't know, weren't as, I don't know, maybe a little reluctant to make all those changes. There was a lot of change going on with this magnet program. So I think the mentor teacher was another good program that, because they selected teachers from, the teacher group to help these teachers make that transition to the magnet themes. I think those were two very good programs. And there was a lot of tutoring, after-school tutoring opportunities that hadn't been there before. And I think that made a difference too for some students who were really wanting to improve their skills.
What were some of the attitudes of the students at that time regarding school integration?
Because I was in the Westports and there was really a lot of that already, I'm not sure. Kids, I don't know if they really noticed any big change. They were already amenable in those two schools to having mixed groups. So they were, they were accepting of the magnet themes and the changes that were being made, because, we explained to them what we would have to explain to them, what it meant for them, what opportunities it meant, how they could develop what they really like to do. So I think they were good with it. If we were good, they were good. They accepted whatever we explained to them and understood, and began to understand the changes that were taking place.
In what ways do you feel that you contributed to school integration?
I always try to teach in the schools where they had the majority of Hispanic children, because growing up, I never had a role model. I never had a Hispanic teacher growing up in the Kansas City, Missouri school system. So I think that's what encouraged me to become a teacher, because I wanted to be that role model for kids. And I like teaching. I like kids. So I'd like to think that I made a difference just being in the school as a Hispanic teacher. And I also would promote different ethnic programming, so that children could show their ethnic background. For instance, at Westport Middle, we did a Cinco de Mayo program where there was another Hispanic teacher who had done a lot of dancing. His mother used to help with the fiestas in the community. And so he taught the kids a dance after school, one of the hardest things. These children have to go home and take care of little ones. They have a lot of responsibility in the inner city. And it was sometimes really hard for them to stay, and they'd have to go through hoops to get permission to stay, and have to then figure out how the little kids were going to be taken care of, or who was going to go after them and pick them up at the grade school and that. But they did it, and they did such a great job. Dr. Garcia was the principal at the time too, which helped, because he was a major role model for the children, seeing him as a principal. But at every school I attended, I tried to bring in some kind of programming during the holiday of mostly Mexican-American holidays. At Westport High School, we had a drama teacher who was excellent, and he also made these what do we call them? International showcase, I think is what we call them, where students of every culture could show something about their culture, share something about their culture. And I think it helped a lot of kids who would not have gotten recognized otherwise, but were willing to extend themselves for these cultural programs. And at Westport Middle, we did, for International Hello Day, we taught the children to say hello in 10 different languages. And that was really a great program too, because I think they really liked that they could say these words and, at least say hello in 10 different languages. We did a lot at Westport Middle because the principal there, Evelyn Belzer, was very amenable, and so we did a lot of dressing up in our native costumes, and that to show the children too, that was an education in itself. The teachers got to share their backgrounds that they didn't realize, or their experiences that they had with another culture. It didn't necessarily have to be their culture, but maybe another culture that they had been a part of as a missionary or whatever, and they got to see different sides of teachers.
And how did efforts to integrate schools affect your role in the district?
It gave me a lot of other teaching opportunities. As I said, I was selected to be one of the mentor teachers in the high school. So it just gave teachers a different way to use their skills. I was a reading resource teacher, and that was a great experience too for me and for, I hope, the teachers that I worked with. At Westport Middle especially, we were able to provide another working area for the teams to come and do, work with us to do special programming in the room or activities, and being a resource too, providing resources for them that they had never had before. So I think that helped a lot. See, I think at Lincoln College Prep, they were given a lot of opportunities to do different type of tutoring and different programs, because there was a lot of talented staff there too. We did the Peace Jam program, which we did every year, and they had to do a community project, but they got to meet somebody who had won the Nobel Peace Prize. These different Peace Prize winners, Nobel Peace Prize winners, came in to Kansas City. It was a wonderful experience for those students to hear what they did, and then to think about how they can impact their neighborhood. Lincoln kids had a lot of wonderful opportunities to make a difference and think outside the box.
And given your role in the district during school desegregation, describe what you recall as academic outcomes for students.
Well, going back to the school within a school program, we saw great gains in their reading scores, their math scores, all their scores went up with this additional help we were giving them, and being in smaller classes, really trying to get an aggressive curriculum to them. At Lincoln, they had the IB program, and every teacher there was trained to help those students succeed and get that IB diploma or pass their tests. I was given the opportunity to get some training, and when I first got there, only one student had passed the Spanish IB test. When I left, 27 had passed. So I think the kids were given many opportunities to succeed in what they wanted to do and accomplish. Those are the ones that come most to mind for me.
What might have been some of the social outcomes for students of school desegregation?
Well, I think, participating in some of these multicultural programmings help them see a different side of each child. I remember reading an article that said that teachers didn't do a good job of using the natural resources right there in their classroom to enhance kids' experience of other cultures. So I did a little unprofessional survey or whatever you want to call it, asking my students all day long to give me, because this is a multicultural group at Lincoln, give me something you've learned of these kids you've been going to school with almost from grade school about their culture, and it can't be about food, it can't be about music. Very few of them could give me anything. And I thought it was a sad, state of affairs that they had been friends all this time but could not share with me or did not know anything else about their friend's culture. So we started doing that. It made me then think, and I changed my Spanish club to an international club so they could then be exploring more cultures in depth. And we had parents who would come in and show, give some of their experiences, show them how to do something hands-on, some kind of food or something. It became a very interesting group, and that led, although it was controversial at Lincoln because it was a very traditional black school, had been a very traditional black school, and they always had a wonderful, wonderful programs during Black History Month. But this other wonderful teacher and I decided maybe we could include all the kids who wanted to share something about their culture. And while it became a little controversial among the staff, the kids really bought into it. And it grew, the program grew so well that the Board of Education came down to see it because it got that good a reputation as it, was being in the making. It turned out to be a wonderful experience for our students. And for us too, who were part of the staff that working with these young people.
You said that some of the teachers were resistant to that. What were some of the discussions around that you can recall?
Well, they thought it should be kept just African American. It was, their month. But, there's not enough. We cannot take a lot of time out of school to do every culture. So I, our thinking, the other staff member and I thought we should allow these students who were there to represent their cultures, because there were several cultures represented there. There's some children from Africa who were studying there, and we had a big Vietnamese population, Hispanic presence. So we wanted to share, we wanted all the cultures who were there to share something. Even if it was just a costume, one of their traditional costumes. So we ended up at, part of the show was a fashion show of different costumes from different countries. So that kids could participate, instead of the Vietnamese girls. Okay, we decided to do this before Christmas break. They started practicing that December. They started practicing in December for the February program. It really was amazing to see how excited they got to be able to share. So it worked out. And once the teacher saw what came of it and how excited the kids were, I think they understood, where we were coming from. And it also stemmed from our Peace Jam experience with these students. The core group who helped that assembly was also in the Peace Jam group. So yeah, it worked out.
In what ways might school integration have shaped Kansas City communities?
I think that, the foreign language grade school and middle school programs were so well received. I think it brought different people to those schools because they were mostly in the north end of town. So those were such good programs that it brought a lot more integration in those programs. Because, all parents want their children to learn another language. And it's a shame that we didn't market those programs more because they were the most successful as far as I was concerned in the grade school. Now, I know that some of maybe the Montessori one also was very well accepted, but the foreign language were exceptional grade schools. And I know that because I had a couple of nephews and nieces that went. They were totally bilingual by second grade. That's amazing to me. It really is.
What changes do you think are needed to improve outcomes for students in today's urban public schools?
I've been thinking a lot about that. There's so many needs. And I guess one of the things that I thought of is that there has to be a lot more after-school type programming to enhance some of the skills that they don't even get at home, that we naturally get at home, but many of our children don't for whatever reason. Teachers can't do everything, that they need in the classroom. I'm thinking just something even as basic as social skills, life skills that we touch on in the classroom, you just naturally do, but not to the depth that I think they need to be for some of these children to be successful, to be able to go on to do a, out-of-town experience without the parent being apprehensive. I remember doing a program here at UMKC where the kids had to stay they had to stay for a week, overnight at the dorm. I had to personally go and speak to every Hispanic parent and assure them they would be safe. I was going to be in the program. I was going to be there with them. Little things like that. I mean, when other kids have been groomed to go to Girl Scout camp, Boy Scout camp, things like that are not always in the inner city, you have to address those issues so the kids then by middle school are comfortable leaving parents. The parents are comfortable about allowing them to have some of these opportunities that will enhance their backgrounds that they may not have been able to, Poverty brings a lot of different things with it. A lot of disadvantages with it. You are really left behind in many aspects, socially, academically. I remember growing up in the city, I never played any sport. There was no sports, no girl sports for us. I think the city needs to provide more viable park and community center situations where kids can get some of those skills that parents in the suburbs have time and money to do. These kids don't have any. I didn't have any of that growing up. The only thing I had was a little neighborhood pool. That's it. But there were no other opportunities for me to do any kind of sports or any kind of enhancement, academic enhancement during the summer or after school.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us about school integration in Kansas City?
I think there still needs to be a lot of dialogue with the business community, different groups. I think there needs to be more involvement of businesses in the community so that they are, so some of the people who are working there for these businesses who have all this talent can share that talent with our kids. I know they go home to a different neighborhood, but somebody has to care about our children. When you have parents that can't, didn't have those experiences themselves, how do they teach kids? How do they even know about them? Somebody has to make that sacrifice to help these children know. Give them those things that most kids get naturally at home, because that's where we are. That's where it is. I think too, helping parents when they see these parents who, know how to parent well, they can teach our parents to do that. I think every parent wants the best for their children. They don't know how a lot of times, and I think when you get the community and the businesses involved, they get their churches, their communities involved. I mean, it happens every time. And that's not easy to do. It's not easy for anybody to stay here after work when they have children at home too.
Okay,
I'm not sure. I wish I had more answers for you, but I think those are some of the things that I certainly would like to see more of in the inner city, in the urban communities.